Good evening, everybody. Sorry I was chatting and we're starting a couple minutes late, but we should call the meeting to order and we'll talk about the quorum issue and make sure we have enough people here in a second. But this is Tuesday, June 21st. It's just after 7 o'clock, and so this is a meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll do a roll call. Maybe we'll just start at this end of the room and kind of let everybody announce themselves, whether they're staff or on the commission.
Kevin Garcia. I'm with the. I'm a planner with the Community Development Services Department.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Jones. I am on BPAC.
Annie Adams. I am on BPAC.
Brandon Bowersox-Johnson. I'm the chair, and this is my last meeting.
Jeff Marino, BPAC Commissioner.
Lily Wilcock, representing the University of Illinois.
Barb Steele, and I am turning over the reins of recording secretary duties to the next person.
Leslie Cross, recording secretary.
Great. Welcome aboard, Leslie. Thanks for taking over as recording secretary. And so Barb tonight is, I think, going to be the proxy for Craig. Craig has, as he had warned us in advance, he'll be out of town, and so he can't be here. And I know Cynthia Hoyle, who's also a member, said she couldn't be here. I didn't particularly hear from a few of the other people.
Audrey and Michelle and Elsie were all unable to attend. They all said that they would not be able to attend.
Okay. Summer travel commitments and things like that. So with Barb being the proxy for Craig, we do have 6 of us who are, 6 votes, and so we can go ahead with tonight's meeting, and we'll decide as we go sort of which items, if you want to take action on things like the bylaws, we could, or we could wait till the next meeting if people feel like they want to make sure the others who are absent have some input. Okay, well then let's start with approving tonight's agenda. It was sent out in advance. Hopefully everybody got to look at the materials, but does someone want to make a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, a second by Lily. Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we will proceed as planned. Next is minutes from the last meeting, and so minutes from our April meeting, as well as notes from the brainstorming session were sent out, and there's paper copies here if you needed them. Did everybody get a chance to look over the April minutes, and are there any corrections or a motion to approve them? Yeah, you could just say I make a motion to approve. Yeah.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Jeff. Any comments, any corrections?
Not that I can see.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you. The minutes are approved, and so that was Barb's last set of minutes, and Leslie will be our minute keeper going forward. So welcome aboard. Okay, so we have 2 items of new business tonight. The first is a presentation from Annie that Annie had offered to give about this program called People on Pavement, and I'm super curious to hear what it's all about.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
that we do the public input?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, absolutely. But I totally skipped over public input. Clearly I'm a very bad chair here, skipping over half the things. Yeah, exactly. You'll have to fire me as chair.
That's the
Okay.
first
public
time
input.
ever that there was a slight miscue.
Thanks. Yeah.
For introductions, my name is Bill Graham, the Public Works Director, and I feel compelled, honored to just talk about the great service that Brandon Bowersox-Johnson has provided to not only BPAC, but to our city council and UC2B. And for those of you who don't know him or knew his previous roles and current roles, you've been just a great asset to the city, to the community at large, and you've made our jobs that much easier in many of the goals that we've been able to accomplish, particularly when it comes to bicycling in Urbana. And through your leadership, this commission's involvement in promoting bicycling, we've been able to accomplish things like being a bike-friendly community to the gold level, or initially to the bronze level. So thank you so much for that, and just serving so willingly on this commission and for council and UC2B. And we're going to miss you, and we wish you certainly the best in your new venture to Seattle. But as a small token of our appreciation, I have a little gift we'd like to give you. So please bring this forward.
Oh my gosh. This is really sweet. An unexpected surprise. Okay. Okay, I want to open this and see what this is. I'd wondered what brought you to this meeting, Bill, but I appreciate it. So it's really sweet. Oh, cool. I love it. Oh, cool. Look at this. It has like the bike stencil and BPAC chair. Thank you. That is really sweet. Thanks. I guess 10 years went by. I didn't even realize how quick 10 years went by. Okay, yeah, the other side is like my name. That's great. I'll put like a no parking sign too, and then I can like claim my whole boulevard. That is really sweet. Thank you. Well, it's totally been fun to be part of BPAC and City Council and all the rest, but with the bike and ped stuff, it's just been great to have staff's collaboration the whole time, and we were all kind of learning it together too, because not a lot of cities our size were figuring out how to do bike lanes and bike programs, and so it's been really fun, and I appreciate, Barb's been here all these years too, Bill's been here all these years too, and kind of watched, and many other staff along the way helped make it really fun, and we made a ton of progress as a small city. And so it's been such a pleasure, and I'm excited even though I will be distant from here, excited to watch what Urbana keeps doing after I'm gone, and this commission's one of those real gems that gets to work on these issues and, put a spotlight on it and help keep Urbana great. So thank you, and I'll still be back here in Urbana visiting often, so I'm excited to kind of stay in touch and see what you all do. So thanks, Bill. Okay, well, is there any other public input tonight? I don't want to misdo my duties here. Okay, so with public input done, then we should jump to unfinished business first and talk about the bylaws. So thank you to Barb for editing and putting these together. And Barb had sent around, people probably got this, and an edited version that had kind of the track changes and then a final version. And so it's kind of up to you all if you would rather have Barb kind of go through and give a few highlights of anything that was a major change or things she wanted to point out, or if people read it and you basically are ready with some questions or some comments, we could just start there as well. What would be more helpful? You want to kind of go through? Okay, so maybe big section by big section, kind of if you point out some of a lot of it was little clarifications to language or things probably for consistency.
Right.
But there's a few things, including one that was highlighted that we still have to make a decision on, and so.
And that one is a fairly minor thing, but it's just finding out what your preference is.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did on Article 2, Section 1 is we just put in there added other duties as directed by the mayor and city council. And this was based on input at the last meeting to find what you wanted to include in the annual report and when you wanted that annual report to be given to the city council. Article 2, Section 2, the general procedures, and was a recommendation by legal, and after they said it, I was like, that's exactly right, that we moved that to general procedures just because, from Article 4 to Article 2 because it flowed better with what we had in the bylaws. Section 2B of Article 2, Section 2, the language came from the ordinance, but we found out we didn't have anything in the bylaws about conflict of interest, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. So we did add some information about conflict of interest. 3B in that section, legal said it really wasn't appropriate the way that it was worded because the chair really would not be changing the duties and the functions of this commission. So it wouldn't be where the chair acts on his or her own and makes changes to what the commission does. It would be the commission that would be making those decisions. As far as Article 4, Section 1 and the general procedures, the reason that the chair and the traffic engineer are taking the request is so that they can, it's sort of a time management issue and prioritizing. So if we had somebody who was visiting, who was going to be doing a presentation, and somebody else wanted something else on the agenda, but we really wanted to have this person here while he or she would be in town, then they might move something to another date, or if they had maybe 7 different items, maybe move some to another day. So that was it's not to keep things from being on the agenda, but it's more of time management. Let's see. Section 3 and 4 was about emergency meetings. Our legal asked us when we would ever have an emergency meeting of BPAC, and I was like, I really can't think of a time when we might have an emergency where we might meet. And the other thing about this is if there are certain things that we want to change, we can amend this later on. Section 6D, notice of meetings, is already included as part of the Open Meetings Act. And if I'm getting too detailed, just start to roll your eyes or something. Section 9B, this is so that all members can vote. Somebody can't be excluded from voting just because they didn't attend the last meeting. That information is on the website. You can get minutes prior to, so you should have the opportunity to have enough information that you can intelligently vote on the issues that are coming up for vote. And the Section 9C was the one that Brandon was talking about that is highlighted. In order to amend the bylaws, we were trying to figure out what kind of a vote you would want to have. If you want to have a simple majority, if you want to make it a little bit, I don't want to use the word difficult, but that it would have to have a strong support, whether you would want it to be 2/3 or 3/4. And so that would be something that would be up to the commission, how you would want, and this is to amend the bylaws. I don't know if you want to think about that or if anyone has an opinion about what they would prefer.
Yeah, any preferences on that?
I'd lean towards 2/3 because bylaws are something that really it would be best to have more like a consensus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And for a 9-member commission, like 2/3 seems like a lot. 3/4, which was the other option in here, seems like it doesn't even come up to a round number for this size of commission, and
It requires
and it seems like a
high-level
really
math,
high bar. Yeah, it seems like kind of a high bar. 2/3 already feels like, okay, that really means a lot of the group has to agree on something, and in order to change it. I don't know. Any other thoughts? Okay, no strong opinions on this one.
2/3 sounds good to me. No strong opinions here.
Okay.
Okay, same.
Okay.
We will circle 2/3 now. Maybe I can get that. On Section 9E, if we have a voice vote, which is typically what we have, and it's very difficult for the chair to tell. For the most part, it seems like we have, if it's a voice vote, it's very obvious what the outcome is. But if there would ever be a question, this gives the chair the option of asking for a roll call vote, and then that would be recorded by person how you voted. And then section 13 was the one that I was talking about, and this is the one that is the conflict of interest. In talking to our legal department, a conflict of interest would be if somebody is making a decision which would benefit them personally or financially. So that would be the time where you would need to decline from even participating in the discussion. That he said that would be the only restriction. So if somebody, just because you work for the city doesn't mean that you would gain personally and financially, or if you work for an organization that's doing the presentation, if you don't gain from it personally or financially, then that isn't considered a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So because that was in the ordinance that, you could be removed if you did vote and there was a conflict of interest and you didn't declare it, legal suggested that it would be good to put that in there. And I was like, yes, that is a very good thing to include. And the very last thing was in Article 5, Section 2. When I was discussing this with the attorney, he said that this section was a pretty convoluted way to amend the bylaws. It talks about a registered letter being sent to everybody, and that we have to ensure that everyone gets a copy of what we're doing. And it seemed, in his opinion, and I agree, that it was a little bit overboard just to make sure that everyone knows what the amendment was. So we changed that so that there wasn't the 5 days notice and all of that. One of the things that I did want to point out, and it's based on some discussion from an earlier meeting, was if there's ever a time when you feel that you haven't had an opportunity to look at something as fully as you think that you haven't received it as far enough in advance to be able to make a decision, it can always be postponed. If a majority of the members think that they haven't had enough time to review something, they don't have to act on it. So I just wanted to point that out too. The Open Meetings Act requires that there's 48 hours notice. So that with Leslie, she'll find that that's that's a constraint that she has to get the minutes out, she has to get the agenda posted. So that gives her a little bit of a time constraint in trying to get from everybody what to be on the agenda and make sure it's posted in enough time. So anyway, that's all that I have that I was going to comment on. If anybody had any questions, just let me know.
Mm-hmm. One kind of quick suggestion on that schedule is, Leslie, for you, I mean, maybe as you get into the monthly rhythm here, it might be helpful if you email the commission with kind of the schedule, like, okay, for the July meeting, if we decide to have a July meeting, if enough people will be here, for the July meeting, here's kind of the schedule of, I'd like to have any topics for the agenda by this day, and if there's any materials that are going to go into the packet, I need to put the whole packet together this day so that you receive it here in advance of the meeting. And if you kind of like tell us what that schedule is, and that will help us kind of get used to your schedule and know the cycle of what it takes to put something on the agenda.
Are you saying, Brandon,
Any?
that she should do it at the meeting before we like, so basically it would be super helpful. That's really awesome. It's like basically what you would say is then at the end of this, the final thing you say is, if you want to be on the agenda for the next meeting, this is your date to get it to me. Because otherwise it's kind of like a black box. Like people will send things like I did to Barb like 2 minutes before the meeting, and Barb's like, can't help you out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think either if you want to tell us at the end of this meeting when we're talking about future topics, or if you want to email us all with kind of the sample schedule so we know. Either would be great. Okay. So did any other of the stuff that Barb kind of summarized, are there any questions, any areas we should talk about that seem unclear or need some
Thought
discussion?
that was really helpful.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, then, one question is, does the group here feel comfortable that we kind of represent enough of the commission that you all want to take action on the bylaws? Or do you feel like because we have a few people absent, you want to wait a month? I guess I don't feel like anything's too controversial here. I feel like we could vote, and with Barb being the proxy for Craig, you know, we officially have the votes, and we could go ahead and vote on the bylaws, but it's up to you all. Okay.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
I
Jeff?
did have one quick question
Mhm.
about the bylaws and the conflict of interest. It says whenever a member has a financial or personal interest, you know, we approved the bike plan, or we haven't. We're going to approve it potentially in the next couple months again.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously, if there's a bike trail that goes right by my house, that would be a personal interest. Or somebody could say, hey, you approved that because that trail goes right by your house, or I don't know. How do you define personal? I mean, it's not financial, but I was wondering if there's a definition for personal, or where you would draw that line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeff, I have the same question. Just, you know, what does that mean? Like, if I propose the people on pavement and an organization I work with makes $20 off of that event, is that illegal, or how does that work? That's my conflict of interest question.
Yeah.
I'm
Those are
confused.
probably two good, two different cases,
Yeah.
but both worthy examples of questioning. Like, okay, what is the law? Where does it cross the line?
Or what
or
are
not cross
what should
the
our
line?
roles be then if,
Yeah.
let's say, a bike path goes in front of Jeff's house, or I want to do an event with like 50 partners, one partner being a business that I work for or own.
Yep.
What would that mean?
Or if it was appropriate to tweak the wording on that to say, you know, define personal interest as to something that, I don't know how you define it, or you could take out the word personal and just say, I don't know, I have no ideas for a solution, but that'd be another option.
I mean, I understand why it's there. Like, it makes perfect sense to me as to why it needs to be there. I'm just curious how it rolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding is personal is almost like it's not financial, but it's favor. You would get favor from someone by doing that, like a political appointment, or that may not be a financial gain, but it would be.
Yeah, so I guess in the example of the bike plan, you know, you're approving bike plans that are all citywide. So it just happens to be that one goes by your house, not necessarily you're approving one just for you to use in the future or whatever. So makes sense.
Yeah, in the case of the bike path, I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, I'll kind of interpret the way I've always understood the financial and personal gain thing. In the case of a bike path, say a bike path is going to go down Anderson and you happen to live on Anderson,
Right.
you know. Everybody on Anderson is benefiting, and everybody in the town that might use that path on Anderson is benefiting. It's not something that's being done just
Right.
individually
Yeah.
for only the benefit of you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whereas if you, award your company a $10,000 grant to pave that bike path, and then you personally are going to,
Right.
see financial gain individually, that's a different thing. But lots of the stuff we do does have a citywide scope, or, planning a bike route network or something that, might go down lots of the streets that we live on. But,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's individually benefiting you in a way that it isn't benefiting everybody else who might live on that whole street or live in the whole town and use it. So, I don't know. For me, at least, that's the way as a non-lawyer I've always thought about, like, oh, is this a conflict of interest, or does this really benefit everybody who
Right.
has a chance to use it?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Bill Gray's been knows these rules for inside and out.
I'm not an attorney, but knowing how legal has responded in the years past, two comments. One is that if you want to use Jeff's example, if the bike plan was before you, or even for a vote or recommendation to approve to City Council, but you strongly, and I'm just saying you live on Colorado, there's got to, it's not on Colorado. I want that path moved from Florida to Colorado. And you get Lily to agree, motion moves second, and you approve, and you're going to make a recommendation, and you live on Colorado, and it was supposed to be in Florida. Okay, that would be an extreme situation where I think there would be a conflict in something like that. But here the plan is vetted through lots of public input, consultant prepared it, staff was involved, et cetera. It wasn't like you singly had some plan into why it's on Colorado. So that's one aspect I would say. The second is that if there's something on the agenda that maybe slightly or remotely gives the appearance that, ooh, I may have a conflict of interest, it'd be very easy to contact any one of us, Leslie, whatever, that this is on the agenda for the July meeting. I live in Colorado. It may appear that way. And we could always, or Barb can talk to legal and give you a suggestion. And even in the most maybe subtle way, if there appears or there's an appearance, then just recuse yourself. And if it falls one vote short, well, then it just falls one vote short, if that's the case. But the easiest thing is to recuse yourself if you felt like, ooh, there could be an appearance of, an impropriety or something. So that's the safest, just recuse yourself. But I think unless you're being, really out of the ordinary of, no, move that bike path or that lane on a different street. Well, wait a second. We went through this whole process. It doesn't make sense. Well, no, that's where I live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that help?
It does, yes.
And I mean, for Annie's example, the question of, kind of like, say there is an event and it's being held at a location that you work at, or, involved with a partner or co-sponsor or something that you're part of, I think you have to kind of take those case by case and say, like, well, okay, wait, is part of the city and BPAC helping sponsor the event mean that BPAC is putting money into it, or the city, budget is putting money into it? And then is that money really just to pay for the catering, or is that money to pay for the venue and you actually are the one renting the venue for the event, And so you have to kind of just go through the specifics in a situation like that and consider, okay, is this, am I really like renting the venue from myself so that I can, get $500, or is it really not directly benefiting me? It just happens that another organization I'm also part of, so many of us are like also part of CU Safe Routes to Schools, or part of CCB, and CCB sponsors the bike map, but this commission will always kind of review the bike map and give input about the bike map. But that doesn't mean that by us supporting the bike map, if one of us is also an officer of CCB or something, that then that necessarily is a conflict of interest. We're really not personally benefiting. We're just part of two organizations that are both working together on a bike map. So, so I think you have to kind of take those case by case. And like Bill was saying, it's always fine if you're unsure to call staff and ask, and they can kind of run that scenario by the legal folks and like decide, okay, what is the kind of clear dividing line, and is this okay, or should you recuse yourself? Okay, so that was the conflict of interest stuff. Any other parts of this that deserve some questions or discussion? Okay. Now I forget if there was already a motion on the floor. There was, wasn't there? And Jeff was faster, and Jeff seconded it. Was it a motion by Annie and a second by Jeff, if I remember right?
I don't know if I seconded it, but I would second it.
Okay. Okay, we'll say it's that. Any other discussion? Any other parts of the bylaws changes that people have questions about? Okay, well then we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the bylaws with the 2/3, put in there as we chose, amended, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. So thank you, Barb, for pulling all that together. And now Leslie can start without having to worry about like bylaws changes still lingering over her as she gets used to the commission and getting in the flow of things. Okay, then next up tonight we do have new business, finally. So the first of those is this People on Pavement program. And okay, now you've had a few more minutes to think about it, Annie. Tell us what is People on Pavement. I hadn't even heard of it until you brought it up.
Okay, so this is why the conflict of interest is a question of mine. I have a partner I work with. Her name is Kristen, and we have a project called Imbibe Urbana, and we are interested in getting downtown spaces activated with people. So one project that we were interested in was having like a back to school open streets event. So an open streets event is when you have a section of the street shut down and people can ride bikes or walk or skateboard, or you'd have the city arborist give a tree tour, or you would you can do just different events. Like the street's not just for motorized vehicles. So frequently these are like loops, and it's my understanding. So I brought this idea up, and I met with Cynthia, who wanted to do an open streets event actually next week. And she had all these partners. She had the Carl Foundation, Champaign Center Partnership, Champaign County Bikes. She had a whole route picked out. She had a whole budget. She had a very big event planned, and it was my understanding that Champaign was all good, but there were issues in Urbana with it. So she's not here, so I'm not going to speak any further on that because I have no idea. So we met with her to just see what's possible, what's not possible, where are people's heads on this. And the main reason you do an open streets, a quick summary I have is basically streets are closed to motorized traffic, prioritizing biking, running, walking, yoga, musicians, bike rodeos, and so forth. You could have food trucks there. You could have clowns there. You can do as you wish, essentially. And it's a way just for the community to get together. And so the one idea we had that Imbibe Urbana had was that we thought, what if we change it from an open streets to People on Pavement? What if we just call it People on Pavement? What if we made it a shorter route? What if we just did that area by the Boneyard Creeks, West Griggs Street? It's basically a half mile between Race and Orchard. It's a pretty unactivated space. People could then go bike around down in the Boneyard Creek area. You could have Copayera. You could have different folks come and do different things. The other idea is the mall across the street has a giant parking lot. If we did, because one idea we had was just 2 hours, Sunday morning, free community event for 8 to 80-year-olds was what we were interested in. So it's nowhere near the vision that Cynthia had, and it's nowhere near that idea. Ideally, like if you did it in August when the students came back, it would start at campus, it would come up Green Street, it would go down Green Street, people could do a big loop, and that would be like the dream fantasy, and I know it would cost money and it's tons of organization. So I just kind of like the simpler, like I just kind of broke the idea down and went, what if we had like, the city of Urbana, the Urbana City Council, Urbana Public Works, like what if we really just involved the city in it? Because a lot of people are just moving here in August, whether they've bought a house or whether they're students. There's a lot of new residents. The city has a lot of churn. Like there's people that are here forever, there's people that come and go, and it would be great if they would know like, hey, I can get a new tree in front of my house. Like people don't even know like that program exists. But if you did like a People on Pavement and you made it this event that people could come to and find out, Urbana Free Library, different things like that, the Bike Project, Neutral Cycle, Ride Illinois, Prairie Cycle Club, Second Wind Running Club, Amara Yoga, so forth. So that's just an idea I had that I wanted to throw out there and see if there is if anyone's interested in it, if you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a dumb idea, if you think it's useful or not useful. And then obviously we'd want to talk to Cynthia because she has done like tons of organization on this. I mean, it was frankly stunning. Like the two of us were like, oh, okay. So that's just where my head's at on that. So
I thought I would just open it up.
Yeah, what other questions, feedback? People think this is a good idea, or parts of it that are interesting? What? Yeah, okay, Lily, and then I saw Bill's hand too.
Cool.
Go ahead.
I mean, the university would love that. That would be great. And there's actually several. What's interesting is that there are several people who have come to me with a similar idea too. And I think that I would be, personally and officially through the university, be willing to support an event like that. That'd be great.
Because I think we could also like increase bike commuters, because people on a Sunday, it's a really nice, easy time to figure out your bike route. You're not super stressed about how people are driving, and it would help. I'm always pushing bike commuting. Like but so that would be like people could figure out their routes, especially like little kids or parents with kids, or it would just be sort of this safe shared space that people could maybe be on. But thanks, Lily.
One quick follow-up. Are you talking about doing this not on a street, but instead on a pavement of some sort?
I just kind of changed it from open streets to people on pavement. It was kind of tricky.
So not on a street.
I would happily do it on a street.
Okay.
But if we can't do it, but streets are also pavement.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was just one. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
But that was so basically there is a whole organization called Open Streets, and people do this around the world, and thousands of people show up, and it's a huge moneymaker for cities. So it's really, frankly, like for the benefit of Urbana, which is why people are really interested in it. It makes people want to live in cities that do this. It makes people love it. But it's more, I just don't know if the political will, desire, interest is even there for such an event, or if we should scale it down and just keep it a small, like just little Urbana event. But obviously the longer route is more fun for everybody. So.
Okay, Bill, you had your hand up too.
I think the idea is a great one, and it could grow to who knows how big. And I think it's in keeping generally with current and past city councils of trying to have events like this to foster all the things that you mentioned. Process-wise, I just wanted to put my public works director hat on and just let you know that when we start closing streets, there's not a problem necessarily to do that, but we do have what's called a special events permit that has to be filled out, and typically we'd like that a month or more in advance to know if it's a big deal. If it's a block party, and we know a couple of weeks in advance, that's one thing to close a block. But one example you gave was Green Street from campus, Wright Street, all the way to Race or whatever.
Right.
That would be a bigger deal because just think about it, impacts not only a lot of vehicles, but bus routes and things of this sort. So there's got to be a lot of planning for that.
Right.
But we can do it, and depending on who the sponsor is, there may or may not be costs. I mean, the city contributes so many dollars toward the setup, takedown, trash removal, if there's police needed, whatever types of things. I know Champaign is a similar process to do, but it's not that it couldn't be done if it was tied into the move-in week or something, or whatever you're thinking about. I mean, the big deal that time of year that keeps us very busy is Sweet Corn Festival, which is typically right when the students come back. And that, I would stay away from that weekend because that just totally consumes us. I mean, almost the week before we have to plan.
Okay.
So whenever Sweet Corn is, I'd say stay away from that. But beyond that Friday night, Saturday situation, no, you can try those things. And we're kind of into a real rhythm in closing streets downtown anyway.
Okay.
But if it was to expand elsewhere, it's not that it couldn't happen. But if you and Lily or whoever the group leaders are would need and want to sit down with John Collins, who's our operations manager, and his staff are the special event folks. And online, you can get our special event permit and all the details. Unfortunately, we have so many variety of special events. It's about a 20-page document. I meant the actual
I would ask
details.
for help.
The details of a special event are somewhat involved because they can go from Sweet Corn down to a block party and everything in between, parades and all kinds of things. But don't be intimidated by the length of but it probably would touch on those details of a special event, what you're talking about.
No.
And it could be done.
I do have a question, and this is just a brainstorm question. Would it be bad to have Green Street shut down during sweet corn, like having people arrive by bike or bus. I'm assuming that would be Carmageddon, but I'm just going to ask if it would be a bad, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just wondering if it would be better or worse.
I think if you wanted to associate something with sweet corn,
That's what I was thinking, right?
you don't want to do it this year.
No.
But the idea, and even during sweet corn, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if Green was shut down too and we would do blah, 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 blah. And then, and I'm getting really into the weeds here,
Right.
if it's sweet corn, then you really want to speak to our UBA or Urbana Business Association folks.
Right.
Because they're really the planners for that.
Right.
Public
'Cause
Works,
you could
police
do like a
are
bike
support.
parade. You could do a sweet corn bike parade. You
Yes.
could do other.
You could.
Okay.
You
that's
could.
interesting.
And
Alright.
you may have an idea that could just grow it into a new direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and they kind
Thanks,
of,
Bill.
I mean, I would add with sweet corn, they've been trying to kind of add a different sequence of events. Like they, the last year or two, added a stage where they got the local high school bands to come do performances.
Yeah,
and
that
so
was an awesome stage.
they closed different parts of the streets during different times, you know, Friday night part and Saturday night part, different times of the event. And so, yeah, the idea of kind of like adding a parade onto it might completely work with their schedule. But yeah, they probably already know what's happening because it's a month away. They probably already sort of know what's happening this summer. But I love that idea of connecting it.
I mean, Champaign is Blues, Brews, and Barbecue this weekend. I mean, if you've ever been to it, I mean, it's a huge deal. Lots of streets and big areas involved, and band setups, whatever. And you wanted to build off on those sorts of big events.
Right.
I don't know that we would say no to it. We'd want to
Okay.
listen and see
Right.
what the ideas are.
Okay.
Bill, do you have anything to also add about the idea of starting with a big parking lot, like where the farmers market is or something? If you end up thinking for the kind of event and audience,
You could do a
is-
fast. You could do a fast people on pavement in the Lincoln Square Mall. You could have food trucks. You could do it on a Sunday morning when no one's parked there. You could do yoga. It might be super hot because there's no shade. But just that is not my ideal location. But just out of pure curiosity, like, what do you think of? Like, is that
is the parking lot process different than the street
Well,
closure process at all?
Again, you have to understand Lincoln Square parking lot is technically Lincoln
Private.
Square's parking lot.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They
That's-
lease it from the city.
okay?
So Mr. Webster and his mall manager would have to get behind the idea and agree to it. But if that's a low-use time of day or Sunday, what have you, they may say it's great. In fact, it may bring business in that day or the next day, or expose people to, oh, I didn't know this was in Lincoln Square. So I think they would see a benefit to it. So, but that's who we
Yeah.
would want to speak with.
But I would prefer like the leafy, beautiful streets and houses of Urbana. I would also like to add, make Urbana great again. Urbana is already great. I just wanted to follow up on
Good
that.
point. Thank you. Yes, greater. I think I said greater.
Greater.
Not just great again. No. Greater.
I misheard. I
Okay.
apologize.
Brandon.
Yeah.
I was just going to also add that another partner you could consider bringing into the fold is the Public Health District. So the Public Health District, like 2 summers ago, I think, had initiated a similar process, and they were going to call it Ciclovia.
Yes.
And it was going to go
That's
down
what it is.
Green
Yep.
Street. But
Yep.
one challenge that they ran into was definitely the coordination between Champaign and Urbana. You're working with the Champaign Police Department and the Champaign Public Works Director, and then or Public Works Department, and then working with a whole another set of group of people with the Urbana, and the timing, they had trouble pulling it all together, and they also had trouble logistically with their time frame. So like Bill had said, if you're going to do something with the sweet corn, you want to start planning now for next year. And that was one of the Public Health District's problems, is like they started in May and they were planning for like July, and there just wasn't enough time to bring it all together. So that would be another thing to consider.
And what if you just? Oh, I was going to say, what if you just keep it in Urbana? But let you go.
You can.
Okay.
And I was going to just, on what Jeff said, I mean, 2 examples of both cities and the university working together are 4th of July parade, lots of planning into that, and then, of course, the marathon is the
Marathon.
biggie. Big deal.
I've always wondered
Lots of
why
planning
this-
for the
yeah.
marathon, so we
Right,
all have
crazy.
to get together and
Right.
agree on dates and cooperation. Lots of meetings ahead of time. I mean, I don't want to underscore, the bigger the idea, the lot
Right.
more planning's involved.
And also to echo Bill's comments, when you're talking about shutting down streets, you're paying the Public Works Department in Champaign overtime for every employee that's out there that's putting up the barricades and manning them. And then with the police department, if there's police staff that's also manning it, they're getting paid overtime. So it turned into an expensive event as well. And then you have to
Right.
get sponsors in the fold. And so like the marathon and the 4th of July parade, just like Bill said, they're planning it years in advance, but also they have a revenue source and they're able to afford to do all that. So that was another issue with the public, when the public health district was trying to start this, that was some of the challenges that they ran into.
Okay.
And as far as the university is concerned, it's the street closures. The only big discussion would be where and how are we going to redirect traffic. And that's the only thing. So if you have something that is going to really close off, say the Sweet Corn Festival is really going to close off this road, and then you're going to close off that road in particular, like along to it, you just need to have those conversations, and they can sometimes add a lot of time to the planning process to get approval. It's not really super expensive. Street closures at the university isn't, but it sure can be sometimes like a logistical thing.
If you start at Alma and bike to the mall on Green Street, is that all Urbana?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, MCOR is going to start construction there
Right.
soon.
Yeah.
So
So the next 2
That'll-
years are out.
Well, will it?
I
So
have
the
that
street will be
problem all the
blocked.
time.
Will it be blocked at that big, massive at Lincoln? Is that where the street will stop, or what? happens?
MCOR in Urbana is 2 parts, and
Right.
it starts this fall and finishes hopefully December of 17. And then the piece between Busey and Race is 2019. That'll be 1 season. So
Okay.
2018, you would have a window. 2019 would be out if you're suggesting what you're suggesting, and after 2019.
So,
but with that being said, 2018 you'll have a raised bike lane on campus on Green Street. It'll be really cool.
Well-
Yeah, you could do it from between Wright and Lincoln, for example.
yeah, I was trying to think, like, what if you did it? Yeah, what if you did it? Yeah, Lincoln. Yeah, Lincoln to right. You know what I'm saying? Like past that massive intersection, which is Lincoln, right?
Yes.
Down to the mall.
Yeah.
That area is not being touched by MCOR project, is it?
Not till 19.
19.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. It's being
My
touched,
2 cents
though.
worth is maybe start small and
Yeah.
then grow it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would echo that, Bill. I've sort of been sitting over here trying to figure out how to weigh in on this, because I was part of the group led by the Public Health District, and we had people from City of Urbana, Champaign, U of I. Tim Chow from Neutral Cycle was in a lot of those meetings, and I want to say we met for like 8 or 9 months, and I think I'm trying to remember what sort of derailed that process, and I think we just sort of set it aside and said, okay, we'll pick it up at some point in the future. I think what we were missing was probably a dedicated like champion for it. Like Public Health District was leading it, but they were sort of, it seemed like they were doing it sort of in the very minimal free time that they had, and it just, I think for a lot of us, it just got sort of overwhelming. So I think starting small, sort of developing the proof of concept, and then building off of that would be great. I mean, we wanted to be all inclusive and say, hey, let's do, and I think I probably was the one that raised my hand and was like, yes, let's do Urbana crossing the U of I quad into campus town. Let's get everybody involved, and it's just a big thing to plan. And even though I'm a city planner, I'm not an event planner, so it was tough. But the idea, like there's definitely people that are interested in doing this. It's a great idea. I think Urbana's a perfect city to and Jeff, no offense to Champaign. But I think it's a perfect spot to do this. I do know there's actually a planning grad student at the U of I that has done these I think in LA.
Yeah.
So she has experience. So I think we could get her.
She
on
talks
board.
about it every time I enter that building,
Yeah.
by the
Okay.
way.
What about the park
Every
district?
time.
Would they want to take any leadership role in this or no? Because I mean, it seems like basically a pop-up park is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I forgot they were actually in those meetings as well. So I think there's definitely potential to have them
Which
involved.
that project would be called Parking Day, which
Right.
is like closing off a parking space to turn into a park, which is
right.
That's
similar.
different.
It is different, but
It
it's
is
the
different.
similar
But it's
open
similar.
street. Yeah, it is.
So my question is so first off, I should get the graduates, that person's contact information.
yeah.
And
Great
then
idea.
also,
Good
what
idea.
streets? Like, if we're going to start small, like, so the best I could think of was that was the best when I was trying to think small. The best I could think of was that little half
Griggs?
mile between on West Griggs between Race and Orchard. Do you have any? When I say that street, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, that was the only thing I could think of. But I mean, I know it's not very far, but it's something.
Not to
Yeah.
kibosh your idea and
Yeah.
be respectful of the chairman's time here
Yeah.
in this last meeting. I think, talk to Barb or Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a PW rep and Kevin, but I think, convene a group of maybe just 4, 5, 6 folks and kind of brainstorm those ideas. John Collins would probably be a good person to be there, and he could help you with where and what and how. He's a logistics expert guy, okay? And, have those thoughts in kind of
Okay.
a pre-planning meeting and see who will be the champion. I mean, everybody has full-time jobs. I mean, Jeff, Kevin, Barb. I mean, we got stuff that's going on to set aside. And, you're going to run this thing, and it's going to take 1,000 hours to do.
Right.
Well, then you're going to tell Jeff, well, you know what, half FTE time, City of Champaign, the other half working on this. I mean,
Right.
you just can't fit it in
Right.
if it's really huge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's just the problem is,
So one question I have always had though is like, so for the marathon we shut down streets, and I have always wondered like, why don't we just do a bike event following the marathon, or what? You see what I'm saying? Like, why don't can we? Is there anything where the infrastructure already exists and then we just follow it up with a thing? That's just like a brainstorm question for everyone as well, because I've always wondered about that. That was 'cause
talk to the event plan. I mean,
the marathon folks.
marathon
Okay.
folks.
Sweet corn may be another good one. I mean, because they already have such a process in street closures, they may find out that tacking on an open streets event as part of the schedule of sweet corn may be easier than trying to establish a whole different weekend and a whole different event
Right.
from scratch.
Right.
So definitely, if there's a connection there, I
Corn
don't know.
parade would be hilarious and awesome. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, are there any other events people have in mind that are things that you could kind of add this as one component of it easily?
Yes. I think Champaign has too, but and that could be a tag along there. You got a figure eight, at least in downtown Urbana, it was a figure eight track.
Nice.
Now it's at
And-
Crystal Lake. A
Oh.
lot safer than
Yeah.
the figure.
Yeah, I was amazed at when they did downtown Urbana. It's like, oh man.
They
Very
were going
dangerous.
really fast on. Yeah.
Well,
I saw a lot
curves,
of
yeah.
broken collarbones. It was
Do you
very
know
scary.
who runs that Grand Prix, the bike Grand
yeah,
Prix
actually,
event?
a
And-
guy in Annie's old neighborhood.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. He is also on Wildcard. I can't think of his name, but
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
he
And
lives in
it's-
Albany Park. I always thought that was fascinating.
And is it an
Not
annual
far
event? Like it'll be coming back again to
Yeah,
Champaign Urbana?
It was this year too as well, and
Okay.
they do it. It's during bike to work month.
Okay.
And it's like usually May 15th or like around then.
Okay. Yeah, because they definitely do, close a few streets and
Yeah.
have an area for. I mean, it's super fast bike racing, but yeah, they could tack
Closed
onto
from
that
Indiana, I
event
That's
a
what I'm trying to
more
say, yeah,
slow
like just-
family.
It's like what you do with
Yeah.
the swimming pool, right? Like you have your swimming pool and you say, we already have the infrastructure here. For 2 hours it's going to be open swim, or for 2 hours we're going to have lap swim, or that's all.
There's
Yeah.
There's also a slightly smaller, very similar biking community niche in this town, in this area. Cyclocross racers, and they're used to having a carnival that goes along with their races. Like they're always used to having kind of a festival atmosphere. Bike racers are more used to having like a grill and like they don't bring as many people along with them that are just spectators. And that's maybe a little bit more of a spectator sport too, as well.
Mhm.
One would say.
Yeah.
One could
All
argue.
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, let us know. And it sounds like, that the group that was working on Cyclovia too, if that group, I don't know, if you're willing to be like a connector, Kevin, for kind of, if that group wants to reconvene or have like a meeting of like, hey, we came so far and now do people want to get together and talk about a new effort to make this happen but start smaller or something. Do you think
Yeah.
that's feasible, or are you willing to maybe connect Annie and the folks
I mean,
interested here up
I
with
can
that group?
definitely throw out, to the group and see if there's still interest, and I'm sure that some of the folks will be interested.
Okay.
Cynthia being one of them. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. Well, she's not here. We can sign her up for anything.
But she's a great example of just take Light the Night, for example. I mean, she's kind of is the one that, I mean, we're into a rhythm now, but still, she's the
Yeah.
one up, so many months out, sign the duties and make sure it's all coordinated. And,
Yeah.
she's kind of,
Yeah.
you need
And
someone
start
like her
small. Like
to do it.
we
you
didn't
know.
start with whatever 8 intersections. It started with 1, I think, at the at the one busiest intersection, and kind of grew. So
Wait, what are you two talking about? What did Cynthia do?
Light the Night. It's it happens in the fall, and we hand out about 1,090 lights this year.
Wow.
2 locations on campus. So usually at Alma Mater in Illinois and Lincoln, but Alma Mater is kind of out of the question due to construction this year. So that's something that we're definitely planning right now. Purchasing lights, pre-assembly, 2 parties for that. The Bike Project is very involved in that. They actually commit, I'd say, a lot of volunteer hours. A lot. So, yeah, it's very cool how everybody kind of gets together for that.
yeah. And the purpose is to get bike lights distributed to cyclists and kind of catch everybody
It's very
coming and going
fascinating
from
how
campus who is riding without a light right
Yeah.
at dusk, and catch them and be like, hey, come in this tent. We'll give you a free light. We'll connect it to your bike for you. We've got all the wrenches and the parts and the batteries. Let's
we'll
get you a
educate
working
you on
light.
some other things. And
Yeah.
it's actually fascinating, too, if you see bike around this summer and in the early fall before the event happens, and then you bike at night after the event happens, you'll see so many more cyclists with lights. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
So
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Did we fill you with enough ideas and connections?
No, that's great. And I also like I think I like the 2 ideas of either you make it kind of like a goofy, fun thing, or you also, or you try to tie it into advocacy, like you were saying with health, or,
Mhm.
but like when people physically get something, people are more eager to help out.
Mhm.
Like, oh, we're going to give away lights. Oh, yeah. So
Mhm.
that's just something to
Yeah.
put there.
Cool.
yeah, last year we had more volunteers than we had like stations to assemble lights. It was not an event that was hard to get volunteers to show up for.
Wow.
It's very
Yeah,
cool.
and that's, I think with like the people on the pavement or the open streets, like people are like, well, what am I getting? Like there, like if you had like a specific advocacy or a specific reason around. Yeah, if you were really clear about this is the one thing that we really want to make happen, I think that's another way to bring in partners. People are more willing to help you. So that's something to think about.
Mhm. Cool. Okay, then I think that's it for the 2016 People on Pavement. But let us know as anything materializes, or rope us all into volunteering. The next business item tonight then is just talking about future commission goals. And so I wanted to briefly do some brainstorming tonight on kind of public engagement and how to engage the public a bit. So I know last meeting in April we had, I did the sticky notes up on the wall, and we had those kind of topics about what are the topics people want to see at meetings. And we generated a really good list of those that could serve as a template then for kind of setting the meeting schedule in the future of like, let's start tackling some of these, or get guest speakers. Let's cover some of these topics. But there was one part of this that I wanted to brainstorm further tonight, which was the bit about holding public hearings to let the community offer input, and kind of about the ways we get input from the public and the ways we engage and do outreach with the public. I know there were a few people who were interested in that, and then after the meeting, even on email, we got to talking about, like, should there be a Facebook page, or what are the ways that we can receive feedback with the public and do some public engagement and some public input. So for tonight, I wanted to just briefly do a brainstorming and sort of hear from everybody. I didn't want to do it so formally with the sticky notes and everything on the wall again, but briefly just hear from everybody about what are your thoughts about the kinds of input from the public and, and engagement and feedback that we feel like we aren't getting and that we need, that we want to encourage. And if we can brainstorm some of the kinds of feedback we want and how we want to engage the public, then we could work on that further in terms of thinking, okay, how do we actually make that an event or a Facebook page or a, hold a public input session or meeting or whatever form it may take is fine. An email box or a page on the city website where anybody can go submit a comment, any of those ideas. But I wanted to kind of start at the beginning of what are the kinds of input that you think folks out there in the Urbana-Champaign community have that we really want to be tapping into.
My first thought is that there are so many niches of bicycle communities that we could maybe just send out an email to that they would reply, rather having to have them knock on our door. We could knock on their door. The cyclocross, I'm sure they got an email list. The bike project, the discuss list. And
Mountain bikers.
What's that?
Mountain bikers.
Right.
Prairie Cycle Club.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just knock on, and say, okay, and have some kind of form to generate, instead of what do you think, some of the things that we specifically influence, to let them, give them a voice in those things that we influence.
Mm-hmm. That's great. What else?
I'm very interested in knowing what user experience is on specific streets and at specific intersections, and on specific sidewalks, and that's to me my number one interest is just user feedback, user experience. Like, what's the user experience on this street? I can't bike on this street, or I can't cross Lincoln without getting nailed by a car, or could you put or just what it's like, and it's like we have motor vehicle, we get it. I'm sure you get plenty of feedback from the motor vehicle drivers. It would be nice to get feedback from pedestrians and cyclists as to what changes perhaps they would like in their spaces to make it easier for them to move. So I don't know how you do that, and I made a square around comment box because I like comment box. Like the gym I used to work out in had a comment box, and it was literally a box, and you would just put your comment in, and it didn't, whatever. Like you put your email, your name. No one ever got back to you, but it was like. I honestly really liked that because you could just say anything. You'd be like, oh, the music was stupid, or take those posters of beautiful looking people down. It makes me feel inadequate, or whatever. You could just put a comment box. You could just comment. And so I just know of one person in particular who was a cyclist, but she got in a bad accident, and I still haven't. I don't want to ask her, like, where were you doored? What happened? Like, I just don't want to ask, because that's just seems like an inappropriate, Facebook, talk to me, or that's, and it just, so, and also she's obviously not the first person where that happened. Like, when these things happen, we all know there's hot spots where, bad things happen. So that's all that's my number one concern, so.
I would also, just to add, I was trying to think of, types of things that we review that would generate interest, but Annie mentioned, if we're doing an intersection redesign, and Craig has a question about whether the bike lane should be, striped or dotted or on the inside or outside of the lane. that would be a good opportunity to send out a mailer to, all of the neighbors within 100 feet of that intersection and let them know that that conversation is going to be taking place and invite them to the meeting. And I understand there's an expense associated with that, so that may not be something that the city would want to take on. But you could do a comment box at the intersection, and I don't know if unconventional idea. I guess I don't know if anybody's ever done it, but you could invite people to leave their comment directly at the intersection. I don't know how that would work. I guess they'd have to see what's being proposed. But you could also create, put something up on the web and invite people to go to the website and then leave a message in a comment section on the website, or I don't know, a lot of unconventional. But those are the types of comments I'd be interested in hearing.
Okay, and so it sounds like that's partly about getting feedback from neighbors, from people who are close by or will be affected that that have specific input.
Right.
Yeah, and here we are debating it, and we're not doing anything to let the people in that neighborhood know, hey, we're talking about your street and your curb cuts, and Yeah. Okay, great.
Same thing with the sidewalk improvements that happened on North Cunningham recently. I don't know what type of outreach was done. I'm assuming there was a lot of pre-outreach that was done.
On that one, a lot.
But that would be another example of where some public outreach could definitely benefit.
Yeah, I think on that one a lot, but you're right that there's oftentimes, I think we're discussing lane decisions or bike maps or things, and
and I guess
we're not.
With the bike plan, I wasn't on the BPAC until probably later in the process, but there were several neighborhood meetings early in the process, but they weren't necessarily at BPAC meetings; they were separate meetings elsewhere. I wonder how you could have folded the people that were at those meetings to come to the BPAC meeting and give their input directly at the time that the decision's being made. Maybe they're not vested at that point. I don't know, but those are some of the challenges. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lily?
One interesting thing is maybe piggybacking onto the bicycle registration process. We wouldn't really be able to do that necessarily in Urbana how it currently exists, but if it ever was able to be digitized and people were able to fill out, say, their bicycle registration in Urbana online, you could be able to say, hey, do you have feedback, or do you want to opt into a survey that we might send out later at a later date?
Mm-hmm.
Or if they left their email address, then they could be on a future mailing list of infrastructure improvements. And
Absolutely, which is something I should look into for the university's bicycle registration.
That's a great idea. Yeah, a mailing list of infrastructure. So just people could sign up and say, yeah, I'm interested in this stuff, and then as road projects are happening or as infrastructure for pedestrians or cyclists is happening, they could just be signed up for, Okay. Yeah, Sue?
It occurred to me after all our lists of the bicycling niches that we want to make sure that we find a way to include the pedestrians too, which might be the box at the intersection, or at least a barcode so that they could get out their phone and say, make a comment about this intersection right here.
I like the idea of having like a QR code and it says comment box on the top of it. Section.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is there's this whole little library movement, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm kind of into this idea that like the city would have these little comment boxes around and people would just find it and I'm sure someone would be silly, but I think it'd be kind of cool. Like there'd be these little boxes and it would be like, oh, well, do you have a comment about that? Put it in the comment box. The city of Urbana has comment boxes. I'm just saying, there's a little library thing that already exists where people, build these little structures, and but someone would, of course, have to empty the comment boxes, which is why, of course, the digital is better. But
yeah. There's also, I'll add, a project that the folks at RPC at the county are working on that maybe we should invite them sometime to come present to the commission about. But they actually have been working on a mobile app, like an iPhone and Android type app that is for, I think it's mostly targeted to people biking in Champaign County more than pedestrians, but I don't know that for sure. But
it's called Bike Moves.
It's called Bike Moves. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's bike specific. And it partly kind of tracks your routes so they can collect some data, but I do think that app also has a comment box, I think. So that as, say you are biking across town to Parkland College or something, if you hit a stretch that has horrible potholes in the bike lane or something, that you can just, when you get to the end of your trip, you can go click the comment box and say, this ride was bumpy and terrible at this intersection because of...
I like that this keeps people on topic. It doesn't turn into drivers are bad or this is bad or that is bad. I like that this would keep people on topic and we would get the exact kind of feedback we need. It wouldn't turn into just, whatever all else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay.
Can they include pedestrians in that app?
That's a great question.
That would be
for
a really
them.
interesting.
I mean, you can track an
marketing-
iPhone. I mean, if
Yeah.
someone's walking, you can track it.
I doubt
Yeah.
it. It's a pilot project that's being funded by IDOT, and I'm pretty sure that like the scope of work and all that was probably hashed out a long time ago. So,
But maybe ideas for the future for them to
Yeah.
consider expanding it or something. Yeah.
So IDOT supporting it.
yeah, I think it's being. I'm not totally certain, but I think it's being. I know a lot of it, if not all of it, is being funded by IDOT. And the goal is, if this is a successful app, then it can be launched statewide where anybody, can use it, or a
And does-
city or town or other, regional planning agency could use it.
But does IDOT, do they pay, who pays for sidewalks? Cities do, right? Or individuals, homeowners? I was just
Cities.
curious about why. Yeah, that's why I was just curious. That's probably why
Some
IDOT
towns are
can't.
different, but-
That's why they probably can't do it for pedestrians. Do you see where I'm taking this?
Maybe. Yeah.
That's just saying. I mean, not that pedestrians don't cross streets though, and use streets and need safe intersections. So I take that back. Where that idea was going, that idea was wrong-headed. Never mind, pedestrians need streets. I'm off.
Yeah, like IDOT. If University Avenue didn't have a safe crosswalk or something, then pedestrians never got a walk signal to cross this huge busy street. That's the kind of thing IDOT really would want to know.
Yeah, or you
about.
need a safe space in the middle, or
Yeah.
I would like a raised pedestrian table to get across Lincoln Avenue, or that's my personal
Yeah.
hobby horse, or so on and so forth. But yeah, that's
any of those.
yeah. So okay, never mind. That was where I was going with that. Was I thought, oh, maybe they're just not doing it but never mind.
Well, we could definitely ask the RPC people for a little update about bike moves, and that at least might provide kind of like a digital comment box that goes with you as you travel around town. So,
Yeah, I'm actually beta testing that right now, but I've
Okay.
only taken one ride since I downloaded it like earlier this week, so
Okay.
I can't really report
Okay.
yet. But
It's
maybe
only Tuesday,
Next
so
meeting. Next
there you
meeting.
cool. Okay. Any other ideas of the kinds of public input and engagement that we want?
I would assume that as soon as we get into some of the more Vision Zero things that we want to accomplish and proposals and ideas about that and bicycle parking and things, people are going to have a lot of opinions about that. And so just getting it out and letting people know, hey, how do you feel about reducing the speed limit to something where you can't kill 80% chance you're going to kill someone? How do you feel about it? You know, it would probably be a really great thing before we start making. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes me think like that as specific topics come up, doing sort of what Sue was saying, like just putting more effort into going out to the groups, to the constituencies that we know might already have a group or have a mailing list or whatever, and making sure we do outreach and say to them, hey, next month we're going to be talking about this Vision Zero concept. It's about reducing the campus town speed limits to make the campus zone safer, and you might care. Yeah, you're a group that, you're the running club, and so you probably care about, about that. And, so many of those groups, like the running club, but a million others, are organized already, and reaching out to them could get them more engaged. Okay.
So, I guess I'm just gonna walk through that. So, what would we send? Let's pretend that we had all, these email groups. What would we send them? Would we say because we would, again, it's back to the agenda concept, that basically 48 hours before the meeting, we would have our set agenda. And then at that point, would we email the group, or would we, like, how?
Yeah, maybe we'd try for more notice than that. Yeah, I mean, maybe it would be more like we'd know that in July we're gonna talk about Vision Zero or something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we proactively think, okay, wait, what other groups in town could we give a whole month's notice to and say, like, look, we're gonna have a presentation about Vision Zero and a discussion about it and how it's working elsewhere in the country and what it would mean for our community.
So maybe we because if we did that 2 months out, if
Yeah.
it's like, let's say at the end of this meeting, someone would say, I'm going to give a presentation on Vision Zero, blah, 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 blah. And they would say, great, can you do that 2 months out? And so then,
Yeah,
because
so
then
we
that
have
way
time
you would have
to-
time to get it on the agenda. We'd have time to approve it, say, okay, this is going to happen. And then,
Yeah,
it would actually happen then 2 months
Yeah.
later. So
yeah, totally.
it's just, and obviously you probably wouldn't want to email people all the time, but I think it is a great idea. Like I think Sue's idea is fantastic, just to let people know we exist and this is sort of our agenda. I don't think you're sending them our notes, and the notes are lovely, but I sort of feel like it.
Too much.
Yeah, I think it's just too much information. So that would be my question: is how that's what I was trying to figure out too. Is how, not only when would we contact them, but how would we break it down? So I guess you'd also just have to agree in the meeting, we're going to send this stuff out to these people, and this is what we're going to send, I suppose, right? Am I?
Yeah, yeah.
Or assign, like I could say, I will write up and send y'all an email. These are the questions I think we should send them. Get y'all to say, yeah, that looks good, and then send out.
Yeah, yeah. And somebody could agree to kind of like, I'll be the point person for getting this to this list of running and cycling and walking clubs, and here's, yeah. I like that. Okay. And definitely with the schedule, there might be a hiccup the next month or so. Like, so this is my last meeting as chair. So I don't know what's for July, and I actually don't know. It'll probably be up to the new chair, as soon as that gets figured out and finalized, and gets with Leslie and starts to know kind of Leslie's work schedule, and they'll get in a rhythm of figuring out, okay, let's start to plan a few months in advance. What are the upcoming topics? What's the schedule? And usually in either July or August, we'll end up canceling a meeting just because of summer vacations. Like sometimes it's August, where so many people are going to be on vacation in August that we just can't even get a quorum. So I think a bit of that has to be figured out yet in terms of, do we have a July meeting and do we have an August meeting? And I know the one time-sensitive issue is still the bike master plan approval. So I know we originally wanted that to be ready for this meeting tonight, but it isn't, so that's fine. But it might be that Craig is ready to bring that in July, and so then we'll really want to have a July meeting and try to drum everybody up to have a quorum, or maybe he'll have it ready in August, and we'll really want to drum everybody up to not take too many vacations. And
Yeah. So yeah, it is vacation season.
Yeah.
I was out of the office for a while recently. Now Craig's out of the office. We are planning to reconvene second week of July and try and hash things out. So we
Okay.
hope that at next BPAC meeting we'll be bringing the plan
okay.
probably back in some form or another, at least give an update on where we're at. So
Okay. Okay, so that would be maybe the July meeting, which is like the third week of July.
yeah, and Craig knows in his head, I think,
Mhm.
all of the
He has a
like the
schedule.
steps of which commissions it needs to,
Yeah.
like who needs to be met with. There's 4 different
Yeah. Okay,
different
good.
groups and all that. So
Good. Good. Yeah, that makes sense, and it makes sense that Craig kind of has a schedule for that. And so it might be that the July meeting happens. That would be like the 19th of July would be the third Tuesday, and that's the main topic for July. And in terms of then planning for August and September and kind of lining up some speakers and topics for the fall, that the new chair would work on that with Leslie, and you'd have a good rhythm going by that point. Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about was kind of that public input stuff, and so I can talk with Barb, but maybe we can kind of summarize that and add that to some of the brainstorming notes so that we can share that with Craig, Cynthia, and everybody else who was gone tonight. And yeah, I think it's good to just have these kind of conversations about, like, wait, what are what are the topics we want to tackle? What are the goals? What are the, what is the kind of community outreach we want?
Yeah, I think the feedback question is really important.
Yeah.
It's important to let people know what we're doing, whether they agree or disagree with what we're doing. I think it's important for people to feel like, their government is doing something for them, is moving things along, and we're not just talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's just really, I just think it's really important that people know even who to contact if there's stuff. Yeah, or if they have a concern, or just like, I see, that's all. Just like what would how to even go about contacting who and whatever.
Yeah.
Just letting people know that basic information even. Not that they can't go to the website and be like, oh, but are these the people to contact? And there's 15 emails and I don't know. So that's all.
That does bring up one thing I'll mention, which was a specific strategy was having an email box or a comment box specific to BPAC. I know right now the commission itself doesn't, on the webpage, the city webpage about the commission, there isn't an email address that'll go to all of the commission members. So the public, if they end up on that page and they're like, yeah, I have some pedestrian feedback, there's no way to write in. It does mention individual email addresses, but only for one or two of us who have a city email and not for everybody. Like, I think mine is there and maybe Barb's is there as the secretary or... Okay.
I think there's a hyperlink. I'm not positive about that, but I think if you hover over everybody's name, it doesn't give your specific email address, but I believe it will allow somebody to send an email to you. I'm not 100% about that, but I think that you can do it that way.
Okay, well then if it already does, that's really cool.
Well,
And-
I think we'd have to be really clear, like if this is what if we did have like just a general comment box or like if we had like, we'd have to be really clear about what it's about and why it's here, and that we are the people to contact about it.
And where do you,
And maybe we need to be more clear amongst ourselves who we are and what we're doing and what we want people to talk to us about.
Yeah. And do you want individual people to go click on your individual names, or do we want some kind of like one comment box where it'll just get routed to the staff and to the commission, so that we can include that in comments for the next meeting?
And we'll make sure it blind copies the commission so that we don't have
Yeah.
back and forth Open Meetings Act violations going on. So
Yeah. Totally.
I always appreciate it when there is a comment box online. Usually politicians will have something like that. Hey, is this a policy question? Is this a complaint about a particular area? Is this this? You check that, and then so if we did do something, it would be really cool if we could just have a couple little questions to kind of see what they're talking about, and it goes to all of us, and goes to the meeting. Or
That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
it's really nice.
Yeah.
We currently, and I think we mentioned this at the meeting where they were talking about when the I can't think of his name, from the police department at
Chris Hawk?
When Chris
Oh,
Hawk
yes.
came, we were talking about that we do have on the city website the Citizens Voice comments. So it does have a drop-down box. I can't remember if bicycle issues are a specific or is a specific category that you can choose, but well, we could see if that's a possibility. But that is one option that's available to anyone who wants to put a comment in, and it gets directed to me. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and if that's like the chosen route that we want feedback to come, then we could on the BPAC page say like, if you have a comment about road conditions or the transportation network in town, here's the place to go send it, and it routes you to that.
We'll hear it. Yeah, we'll get you.
Routes you to that Citizen Voice comment box or whatever. Yeah.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that it would bring attention to this comment box of which you speak, of which I have not, I have never seen. I like the idea that it would, not that you like getting lots of email, but it would, I like that there would be, but I think people like knowing that there's a central area where I can email or ask a question about whether it's a tree or a sewer or, they don't know. People have no idea, like, what commission does what or who's in charge of what,
Yeah.
So I love that there's like this central, if I were to redesign the Urbana City Government website, I'd probably much to Barb's dismay, I would just be like, "Here it is," you know. But
Send all your feedback to Barb.
No.
And she
Obviously,
will
you would do it
solve
in a
all.
classy, interesting, nice way. But I'm glad to know I'm glad to know that exists. And you can easily then just update all the commissions, you know, not just ours, all of them, to just direct to that and then raise more attention to that space.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, good suggestion. Any others before we wrap up? Okay, well, it's 8:30. Within our new time limit that we've approved. So that's the end of our business items. Are there any announcements tonight? Yeah, Barb?
I did send an email out to all of you that there is a ribbon cutting ceremony that is tomorrow in front of the Hickory River Smokehouse for the Cunningham Avenue sidewalk project that they finished. And for the life of me, I can't remember whether it's 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you,
2
Jeff.
o'clock?
I sent it out, but you're more than welcome to attend that, and it's pretty exciting that.
Yeah, can you tell me more about it? What it is?
The ribbon cutting?
Yeah, the project.
It is now. I wish I could. We had a presentation a couple of months ago, but it's
When Chris Hawk was there.
right when Chris Hawk was there. But it is a project. It's going from approximately Perkins Road in that area up north, where sidewalk was not in existence, but we still had a lot of people that would walk in that way. So they've put sidewalks on both sides, and the one that is on the east side, if I recall, is an 8-foot width.
It's
so
a big,
it's
nice kind of multi-use
Yeah.
path.
Shared use, yeah. With
So it's fulfilled a pretty vital need in that area of providing pedestrian and, So, I mean, there are people that walked there without sidewalks anyway, so now they can.
Yeah, I Google mapped it when I got the email because I was like, "What is she? What's happening? Like, what did they put here? I don't know." And I was trying to think last time I drove by there because I would not bike or walk over there. But yeah, I was just like, "What did they put in?" I was laughing because I was like, maybe it's just like a sidewalk just in front of the steakhouse. Like, I don't know.
No, it's pretty long. I bet it's a half a mile or maybe even more than that. It really is a long linear sidewalks on both sides, the wide one on one side that goes for quite a long distance of Cunningham, and really in a whole corridor where there's a lot of living and a lot of jobs, gives people a way to get back and forth without standing in the street curb or making their own trail through the mud or whatever. It really helps.
Yeah, it goes from Perkins to, I think it's called Kenyon, which is where the Shell gas station is on the east side of the road. And then I know I got an email that I was copied on from Bill in the past week or so, where IDOT is looking to extend that multi-use path. I'm not sure if it would be the same width. I hope so, but all the way up to Airport Road.
Okay,
Which would be
so
great.
IDOT would take it under the interstate.
Under the interstate,
Yeah.
and that would be great.
That'd be awesome.
Because I play soccer up at Soccer Planet, so that's right off Airport Road, and I
Yeah.
see people riding their bikes there
Yeah.
after dark, and
Ugh.
they're just riding in the ditch and stuff. So that would be awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
There's
Cool.
a slew
Okay.
of businesses that will connect a whole lot of people too, where previously it was quite a challenge. You had to be very motivated to go
Yeah.
to visit those businesses.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that's tomorrow at 2:00. Yes. Ribbon cutting.
Yes.
Okay.
Email. I was excited
Okay,
to go.
perfect. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I have an announcement. A couple, not this past weekend, but the weekend before this past weekend, there was the League of American Bicyclists came to town and did a training to certify, to make league certified instructors out of some local people. And we have one of them over here, and Lily Wilcock.
Oh, whoa.
Congratulations.
And you?
And one over here.
Sue
and
Jones
then-
has already won?
Yeah, and then
That's really cool.
there's 3 more locals: Charlie Smythe, Jeff Yockey, and Phil Graff. Is that-
Graf, yeah.
Phil Graff from the Bike Project. So we now have, I think, a total of 8. Yeah, 8 locals.
If you guys are interested, I can explain a little bit about what that would.
Yes,
Yeah.
please do.
The cool thing is now we can actually have bike rodeos, bike safety education classes, and they're going to have kind of a overarching liability through the League of American Bicyclists for people to do that. And that's always been the biggest barrier to letting people kind of go out and say, hey, you know, we have this need for students to learn how to bike, or we have this need for, and it's been met very well by a lot of people who've just kind of taken that liability risk. But particularly with one of our colleagues that weekend at Purdue, that's a huge concern there. And where the shops that I'd worked in previously in Chicago, it's a huge concern. Never can do a hands-on class with people ever due to that. So now we actually have, a lot of communities don't have any league certified instructor, and now we actually in town have, 8, 7? A lot. It's very, very cool.
That's awesome.
So does this mean, though, then that you could do like a commuter 101 class?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, because there's concern about doing a commuter 101 class and having liability coverage for that? Is
Yeah,
that what?
talk to Kevin.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Or Sue.
No, I'm just curious. I'm just more
Yeah.
curious because I'm working with someone up in Chicago, and I'm doing a commuter 101 class on Saturday, and he
Yeah.
was kind of he talked to someone who just got certified, and she was like, "What about like liability?" And he's like, "I'm just talking to people about riding bikes. I didn't know they had to get liability coverage." But anyway, so we can do commuter 101 classes now with league certified people, and there's like liability if there was a concern. It's now taken care
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okie dokie.
Cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You can even provide proof of insurance, like, so if MPD wanted it or something like that, or YMCA. Yeah. It's been a barrier in the past.
So I always get it wrong. It's league cycling instructor. I always say certified, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No.
I gotta, now that I'm one, I have to
Wait,
get it right.
I think it is league certified instructor.
Is it? What?
Yeah. Can we
Man,
Google
all right.
this?
I'm gonna get it right
No.
one of these days.
It's
They need to
okay,
just
it's
give
okay.
you the membership card to carry in your pocket. You can pull it out and be like, wait, what am I again? Oh, yeah, that's the
badge.
acronym. Yeah. Okay, any other announcements? Okay. Less going on now than there was back in May. Understandably, now it's vacation season and hot. Okay, future topics, I think we kind of already covered that. The bike plan is coming next, and then we have a big list of topics that we've generated and presentations and things that I think the new chair should work from.
So we should probably be thinking and looking, okay, for next month, what do we want to say? This is the next future topic.
Yeah, yeah,
And then- yeah.
yeah. Is there anything that stands out tonight or things that people, themselves want to present on or suggest for July, other than the bike master plan coming back here in July?
Would this be, and I think Kevin and Brandon, you guys could help me with my naivete about the committee, but would this be a good place to talk about bicycle registration in Urbana and how it's not on an online platform and it's hard to do? And currently with the paper format, Champaign is even looking at doing away with it. I mean, we've got a little bit of a problem right now with people actually being able to claim their property, and so when it gets stolen, as bicycles frequently do in this community, it's a he said, she said problem.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the topics people are interested in, and who do you think could tackle that? Maybe.
Well, we had an American Planning Association conference a couple of months ago. Neutral Cycle has developed a online app, or I don't know exactly how it works, but we could see if Neutral Cycle would want to come and present their app to the group and get public feedback or public.
I could talk about it briefly. Me and Kevin could both. Yeah, if you want me to, we could. Do you want me to talk about it tonight? Because
No, it'd be great.
Okay.
I actually think it'd be
In the
great next
future?
week, because
yeah,
I've
'cause it's 8:40.
honestly never registered a bike. and I've been a lifelong cyclist, and so I would love the compelling argument to actually bother registering.
Oh,
a
I'll
bike.
give it to you, girl.
That's what I'm trying to tell you,
sure.
Lily. This is what I'm
For
talking
sure.
about. I'm going to be
Yeah.
prepared. I'm going to be prepared.
Okay.
When I turned 18, I was the first time I started getting bikes stolen and moving to Chicago and everything, and that's when I started seeing the importance to it. So, I could talk to you
Yeah,
forever
Because there's the
about
national,
these
because there's the
things.
national bike. I mean, there's a couple different bike registry.
There is,
things. So
yeah.
not just neutral, but other. Not that, local. Local is great, but I just it's like I just think it'd be great. Yeah, let's talk about the options because I think that
Yeah,
is. I
absolutely.
definitely think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be. I think that'd be a great topic, and I think kind of including just a bit of the background to bring
Yeah.
everybody up to speed on like how campus is currently doing its. When I was a student here, I went to the parking building and registered my bike, but okay, that was like a million years ago. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the current campus process is, what the Champaign process is, and their issue with changing the paperwork.
Well, and if
but-
we're going to bring in partners, like we were saying, if we want to bring in the Prairie Cycle Club or the cyclocross people, the people who have bikes that cost more than $100, if we want, they might be interested in listening to your presentation and learning how.
Even though the vast majority of bicycles stolen in Champaign-Urbana are under $200.
That's great to know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
See?
fun
There we go.
facts.
Interesting.
There we go.
I process the U of I data every month.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Well, that's a great topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lily, are you willing to like personally kind of be
Sure.
responsible
Yeah,
for
I definitely can.
pulling together?
And just so you guys know, university is currently really interested, and so is Urbana, and so is Champaign. We're all three of us are interested in forming, either going along with Neutral's app and working with them, or developing our own, but having a centralized database for this. So we actually are registering in one place, and anybody would be able to find out whose bicycle is actually registered to who
Okay.
when it comes down to when you really need it.
Yeah, yeah. When it's stolen and you have to, prove
Yeah.
it. Okay, that's a great topic. So yeah, if you're willing to put together sort of the pieces of that presentation and contact the Neutral Cycle people and see if they can come and demo it,
Sure.
that would be great. And our July meeting date would be that third Tuesday in July would be the 19th. So 7 p.m. on Tuesday, July 19th would be the time and date. Okay. Okay, well, that's good to kind of have some topic like that in the pipeline, and the new chair in coordination with Leslie will kind of help then build our schedule going further. Yeah. Lily.
So one quick thing is, either next time or sometime, I did some poking around and looking into Illinois law about biking in parking in a bike lane. So if you guys ever want to hear about some of what local communities are doing, or
yeah, we discussed it a little. What
we
was
did.
it, 2 or
Craig
3
read
months
something
ago. Yeah.
from right.
Yeah, and talked about it briefly while Chris Hawk was here, but we really didn't get good closure or good answers on really what's the status of the law.
It's definitely,
so,
certainly my predecessor's major key issue too, as well. Just because this is such a huge issue on university streets and in the Urbana streets that go on the university district. There's so much congestion for pedestrians and bicycles that it causes quite a delay and a disruption when someone parks in a bike lane.
Would that be too much to ask you to present on both of those next time, or is that
No, I can
Okay.
talk for all night, whatever.
No, I saw a car parked in the bike lane in front of the downtown parking garage. It was like the worst
Yeah.
possible and I didn't know what to do. Like I
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
I was like,
Take a picture and send it.
to
Well, you can send it to Charlie Smythe. That's who James does. James sends it to.
But that was
and
like, should I-
Charlie has said
Yeah.
you can send them to me, but
you can always call the
Yeah.
non-emergency.
That's what I was
Police
thinking.
up.
Don't call
Yeah.
911. I mean, it's not an emergency, but
Yeah.
you can call the non-emergency
Yeah.
police number
that
and
would be
say like
important
there's
for
someone
reporting
blocking.
too.
This is right. This is what I'm
Yeah.
trying. Yeah, just like because if people knew they could non-emergency report cars parked in bike lanes, then people would know that there's a. Okay, we can talk about this next time though. But yeah, because
Yeah.
people would know next time we'll be here. But yeah, that way there would just be because that's all. There needs to be like just people need to know that this is happening and what that that means, and just kind of raising awareness of it.
The manager of the campus bike center has recently purchased a smartphone with a camera just to take pictures of this. So I'll ask him for those photos.
Yeah.
And-
Okay. Cool. We can have a worst of slideshow
Yeah,
as part of the
exactly.
presentation.
I mean, I know people like tweet, they'll put those and then they'll tweet them to like the police department or whatever. And but it's like basically we have to just have one, it's not to annoy, it's to actually create change. And so it's like, I think we just
Yeah.
need to be real clear about what we're trying to accomplish. That's why knowing the actual law would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what other
Yeah.
people have done would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And if we could let Craig know, that Lily wants to talk about this. The other important connection, I think, is just to know from the Urbana staff enforcement side. Yeah, is it this the police department who would go put a ticket on the window, or is it the parking enforcement officers who are totally different staff? Just so that we could figure out, what is really the right phone number to call or the right person to email. So that if people are routinely, blocking the road in this way, it gets solved.
I've posed the question to parking enforcement, and they said they will ticket people who are parked in a bike lane. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is no law in Illinois that prohibits a vehicle from parking in a bike lane.
So
There is in Chicago, but not in the state of Illinois. But what they had mentioned when we discussed this a little while back when Chris Hawk was here was that if they're parked in a spot that's not designated for parking, that's when they were getting tickets.
Okay.
So it's yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's list that as a potential topic for
That's very
July as
interesting.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we, when Craig is back too, if we can make enough connections to kind of get all the information from Lily, but also to know from staff, what is the best way to report it? Is it through the police non-emergency line, or is it just the parking enforcement officers, so that we can kind of give the full picture of information? That'd be
And I
great.
also got the impression from the last conversation that there's a potential at looking at maybe tweaking the local ordinance about how it was enforced. So I think I got the impression from Craig that, or the conversation, I guess, that that was an option if the BPAC thought it was worth it. Because there was some concern, I think Cynthia had expressed that she didn't want to make it that people were opposed to bike lanes if there was going to cause parking issues.
Mhm.
So that was something else that I guess we could talk about with that future conversation.
Yeah. If there is a need for a local ordinance that makes it more clear,
Yes. Right.
then I think that's totally the right time to have that conversation and figure out what's needed.
Right. That was, because Cynthia, if I remember correctly, was like, where are we going to spend our energy? Are we going to spend our
Yeah.
energy on educating people not to park in bike lanes, or are we going to spend our energy
Giving them tickets.
changing the law? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, someone
uh-huh.
is breaking the law. I mean, and that's I think that's what gets under my skin is when I see someone just because there's no parking meter there. I was walking around this car that clearly children I was like, you have children, I was like, oh my God. But it was it's just more that you see someone breaking the law and you're like, how do we let them know this is just a super inconvenience and you shouldn't do this, and so that's the question.
How
Do
do
we
you
change
educate?
do we change the law? Do we spend our energy changing the law? Do we where do we begin on this topic?
Yep.
That's the question.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Well, that gives us definitely some good things for July. And I'll let then the new chair kind of work on schedule for more of these presentations and things for future months. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. So I will declare this meeting adjourned. And we do have still cookies and iced tea and lemonade and stuff, so feel free to stay and snack a little bit. And thanks, everybody.